Hi and welcome back. This is lesson 5 in my series on the basic chords needed to play electric blues guitar. If you're just getting started playing electric blues guitar, again, it's really important to learn the chords. A lot of your soloing, switching chords, chord progressions, so much stuff. It's so much easier if you have a knowledge of chords and know a lot of chords. You don't need a ton to play electric blues, but there's some that you really need to get down. And so the first 4 lessons I worked on what I would call the most commonly heard chords in electric blues. Now we're going to work on some others that pop up quite often, not as often, but a lot. First one we're going to look at is the 6th chord. And for a frame of reference, if you take your first position bar chord, this is an A, playing at the 5th fret with my bar finger on the 5th fret. If you take your pinky and put it on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, you get an A6. Now a lot of times that's just a good way to see how to make the chord. If you put it on the next note up, that's a 7. 6. Hear the difference between them. Now a lot of times when I play this, I'll play it like this. So I'll use this F shape with my first finger barring the 1st and 2nd strings at the 5th fret, my second finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, and my ring finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string. And then tuck my pinky on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. And it just goes right over the first position bar chord shape. So this is an A. If we move it here, G, here, F, B flat, 6, C6, D6, and so on. You hear this a lot in like swing tunes. And other places. So that is a 6th chord. Now another way of playing the 6th is what I call the Memphis position. That's my own term. It's the same chord, but we're taking out the ring finger and we're just playing the top 3 strings. I've got my first finger, instead of barring, I've got it just on the 5th fret of the 1st string. My second finger is on 6th fret of the 3rd string. And my ring finger is on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. And I call that the Memphis chord. There's an old instrumental from the early 60s by Lonnie Mack called Memphis, based on Chuck Berry's Memphis. And he does these sliding 6th chord. That's how I remember those chords. So you play it right over the first position bar chord, and you can slide it. So if I slide into it from two steps below, you hear that a lot. That's a lot easier than trying to slide that whole shape. Can't do that, but this is easier. So C, that's a C6, B flat, B flat 6, F6. You can move that shape all over the place. So we've got the basic 6 shape using 4 fingers, and then we've got the 3-fingered, what I call the Memphis version. That's just fun to play. You hear it in electric blues too. That was more of a rock and roll type thing, but same chord. Another example. Another way you could play a 6th chord. This is one that I just learned recently. If you listen to Tiny Grimes is playing, I'm going to do a lesson on some of his licks a little bit later. But if you take that same first position blues box area, this is key of A, and we make a D7th shape. So this is a D7th chord. And we just move everything over. So my first finger, if we're playing an A, my first finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, my second finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string, and my ring finger on the 6th note, which is the 7th fret of the 2nd string. That is a 6th chord too. And what you're doing there is you're just not playing the top string, 1st string. A little choppier, more muted version of that. So again, we're just playing that right over the first position. I've got that tabbed out for you too. That one I just learned, and it's kind of nice to have a variety of things you can do. But 6 chords you hear quite a bit, and you hear them used in different ways. So knowing that shape and how you play it is important. Another kind of chord is a 13th chord, and this one you hear quite often, commonly. And to make this chord, all you do is take our 9th chord, 2nd position, 9th chord shape. So if we're going to go to a C, 9. Remember that one we learned, 2nd position, 9th chord? And we take our pinky and stretch it to the 5th fret, 1st string. That becomes a 13th chord. And you can do things like go back and forth between the 5th fret of the 1st string and the regular C 9th chord. T-Bone Walker would often, he has a couple songs where he does these instrumentals like something like that, and that's a 13th chord. And watch my classic licks lesson on T-Bone Walker, and I show you how to play that. So a 13th chord, you take a 9 shape, throw the pinky, 2 frets down, or 2 frets up rather, and that becomes a 13th. Here's a D9, D13, F9, F13, and so on. Follow the 2nd position bar chords to find, what key you're in. 5th string. Another one that's kind of common, if you listen to the guitars playing behind Little Walter and Sonny Boy Williamson, sometimes they'll use these chords, they're called add 9th chords. And for this one, we take our basic A shape, and remember, when we add the 6th note, it becomes a 6. Add the 7th note, it's a 7th. If we add the 9th note, which is the 7th fret of the 1st string, we have a D, an A, add 9. Sounds like that. And you're just playing that right over your bar chord. We could play it as a bar chord, but I think most of the time you're going to play it with the F shape. I call that an F shape. Here's an F chord. Move it to the A position, 5th fret, where we'd have the bar. This is an A. And then we stick the pinky on the 7th fret, 1st string. Little Walter tunes, I can't remember the name of the tune. There's one where he does this, it's an F, he's going from the 5. Sonny Boy song, something like that. It's going from the 5 to the 4. Sometimes when he's playing over the 4, he does the... something like that, and that's an add 9. You hear that? So we take the basic position, add the 9th note, which is the, for an A, would be the 7th fret of the 1st string. So here's a C, here's a C, add 9. Here's a G, G, add 9. F, F, add 9. And so on. So those chords you don't hear as often as the 7ths or the 9ths, but they're there. And if you listen to enough old electric blues, you'll hear them. Another song that features the add 9th chord a little more prominently is a song called Monday Morning, or I think it's Monday Morning Blues, James Davis. It's a Texas thing. He does this. He does this nice little intro to that tune where he's using that add 9th chord. So that's one of the only songs I've ever heard do something like that. Before we quit, chords. One more. Now we've done lots of stuff, and we'll review all the chords that you should have here in just a minute. But before we leave, we got to do what I call the Freddie King chord, the Hideaway chord. Also the Earl Hooker chord. This is a chord that is a form of a 7th chord. So listen to this. This is an E7. Here's an E7. Here's an E7. Here's an E7. Here's an E7. And when I play this, the most famous song that features this chord is Freddie King's Hideaway. He plays that during one of the breaks, stop times. Earl Hooker used it a lot, and a lot of his songs. He had a song called Frog Hop, where he starts out like something like that. Pee Wee Crayton has a tune called Bounce Pee Wee, which is a instrumental where he starts it out like this with a D7. So you'll hear this chord. So let's learn it. This one's kind of a challenging chord, finger stretcher, but it's not that hard to learn. If I'm playing an E, my pinky is on the 12th fret of the first string. My first finger is going to get both the first and second strings at the 9th fret. And then my ring finger is going to cross over to the 12th fret of the 4th string. And then my second finger is going to get the 11th fret of the 3rd string. And this chord is neat because you can do a lot of different stuff with it. You can do some little vamping things like this. And that's something that I'll teach later in my lick of the month or somewhere else. But so that chord, and where you play it is if you're looking at the first position bar chord, so this is E, play it at the very top of the chord. So if here's a C, play it at the top, where you would have your bar. If you're playing in D, where you would put your bar for a D, first position bar chord, and that's how you find it. A, B flat, B, F. You can move it all over the place. So just reviewing real quick. We started out with some basic bar chords. First position, second position. We learned 7th chords. We learned 9th chords. We learned some minor chords. And then we wrapped up by looking at some just various chords that you can use. 6th chord, 13th chord, add 9, and then we wrapped it up with the Hideaway chord, which is just a different form of a 7th chord. I'm looking at my list over here. Oh, there's 2 more that I almost forgot. So let's get those. I should have looked at that earlier. Another one that you hear sometimes is an augmented chord. And this one is used sometimes at the beginning of a song. I did a T-bone thing for you a minute ago that went like this. That is an augmented chord. And the way you make this one is you follow the 5th string, and my root is on the 5th string, which is a D. So if I'm playing in the key of G, this would be a D augmented. And really what you do is just take your F position and move everything over a string toward the low end. So it's a D because my ring finger is on the D note. And my second finger is on the 4th fret of the 4th string. And my first finger is barring both the 2nd and 3rd strings at the 2nd, 3rd fret. Sometimes you hear it played slowly. There's a Smiley Lewis tune, and if you look at my lesson on classic intros for this month, these months, I'm going to show you this one. I'll show it to you here too, because this is a basic lesson. But you can pick each string in an augmented chord to start off the tune. He has a song called Too Many Drivers, and he starts it off something like this. I missed one note there. Into the song, something like that. So you'll hear this one, and it just goes according to the 5th string. So this would be an E augmented, F augmented, C augmented, and so on. Just move it around the fret. One last one that I want to show you. That's, again, if you listen to T-Bone Walker, Pee Wee Crayton, these guys will use this quite a bit, Tiny Grimes. It's a diminished chord. So let's take G, and it goes like this. It's a G diminished. One place you hear it a lot is in T-Bone Walker's playing. He does a lot of these licks. Pee Wee Crayton. And that's just a diminished chord shape, and he's bending up on the strings as he picks it. But this is one that you'll hear sometimes. So I make the chord by my first finger being on the G. So this is a G diminished. Here's my first finger on the fifth fret of the fourth string, which is a G. And then the finger position is just like the G ninth, first position. So if you would make a B flat 9, move all your fingers over one string, you've got the diminished chord. So the ninth chord, first position ninth chord, starts on the fifth string. The diminished chord starts on the fourth string, on the root. So if we have B flat, here's B flat diminished. If we want to go in F, there's F diminished, and C, there's C diminished. Now in electric blues, again, the main place you're going to hear that is in playing of T-Bone Walker, Pee Wee Crayton, some other guys will use this, and they use it mostly in that position as a bend. Something like that. If you listen to some current guitar players, there's a guy named Junior Watson who's, in my opinion, the best ever electric guitar player, and he uses a lot of these diminished chords, and he'll do these runs like where he'll move that chord up and down the neck. And for that stuff, again, if you look at some of my specific lessons, the Tiny Grimes lessons, I'll show you some different ways to use the diminished chords there. So, wrapping up, we've got all the chords, and then right at the end I added the augmented chord and the diminished chord. Now that's the first position, diminished chord. There's another way to play that. And for now I'm just going to leave it right here. And I'll teach that chord if we get into it in any specific song somewhere along the line. So that is the last of my series on basic chords for electric blues guitar. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. If I left out something or taught something wrong, let me know so I can fix it. Hopefully the quality is better on these videos, both audio and visual, with the lights, the camera, and all that. And if you were using the earlier videos, I think you'll find these a lot more helpful. I'll be back, one more lesson in the series, the 7th lesson, and we'll take a look at some chord progressions and how to figure out chord progressions and the meaning of chord numbers. You hear people talk about the 1 and the 4 and the 5, and if you're just getting started playing guitar, you don't know music, that's kind of hard to, you don't know what they're talking about. And so I'll try to break it down and explain it in a simple way. See you soon.